We're going to kick things off with retired Lieutenant Commander Norman Dindial. Pleasant good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mikey, and good evening to you, listeners.
Thank you so much. Well, a lot has been going on. If I'm not mistaken, the weapon that was missing has been recovered.
I don't think so, Mikey. I think this evening, the Defense Force put out a release that stating that some of those releases on social media are false, and they're still working together with the police to recover that weapon.
All right. But in the backdrop of all of that, I mean, what does that say about what is taking place with the Defense Force? I mean, you have the Chief of Defense Staff, Air Vice Marshal Darrell Daniel, saying that we hold ourselves to a very high standard, and there are codes of conduct that we live by. And when you are found wanting, the relative regulations and the Defense Act will be applied to you. I mean, very powerful. I mean, you're showing that it's all about these distinguished men and women that make up the Defense Force. But at the end of the day, we are citizens who are currently under siege by criminals. This does not come across well at all.
Definitely, Mikey. It doesn't come across well at all to the public. But you have to recognize, in all institutions, the Defense Force, the police service, there may be rogue elements there. You can't carte blanche all the good men and women serving for a few individuals. But saying that, the thing that happened now, it leaves us to wonder, if the present administration is actually doing enough in our current situation. The Chief of Defense Staff quite rightly said that, this didn't happen under his watch or before for a long time. And the fact that it is rearing its head now, it shows that there are some gaps there in the service. And maybe it's a time where, you have to relook at some of the SOPs that you have there and see if they are relevant in today's society. We have people that are infiltrating our police service, and so far, at this point in time, they may have infiltrated our defense force. But to say that it's men and women, the men and women are good men and women, but these rogue elements put these taint on the defense force.
Yeah, and again, going back to what you mentioned there, as far as the entire process, getting these personnel into the service, I mean, there has to be some other measures now to try to weed out or at least filter out some of the individuals who come in. We know, and I think it's public knowledge. A father may have served. He wants his son who is interested. People who simply are saying, listen, my life choices are limited and I just want to go in there and perhaps get a monthly salary, have something. I mean, is there any sort of a mental component based on the interview as far as saying, listen, these are the best individuals qualified and are going to give us less problems when they get into the service?
Oh, yes, that has been true for quite a number of years. There's the psychometric testing and evaluation to the individuals that come into the defense force. And the vetting is quite robust. A quite robust vetting takes place. But we know the criminal element in today's society, they're far advanced. And they may be preparing for those things and actually setting up people to put in place to get them into key positions, into the force and into the police service. So we have to be cognizant of that. And our psychometric testing and evaluation, and sometimes our polygraph testing, we have to step those things up to look in the correct direction.
Yeah, I mean, there have been many incidents. Also, in this story coming out, a vehicle was shut up on the president's compound. Senior defense staff personnel are concerned about the rogue activity. And again, it takes away from the confidence we as citizens would want to say, listen, at least at anything, we know that our line of defense when it comes to our defense force is there, the best people who are more than capable and will, of course, be there when needed. This does not send that sort of a message.
So, Mikey, there again, you see, this goes back to some of the fundamental principles that we've been talking about. When we even look at our AG's office, we are eroding our democracy in Trinidad and Tobago. So we are eroding some of the principles of foundations, our judiciary. And the bastion of it that supports the judiciary is the defense force and our police service. So we are seeing that our democracy has been eroded, our justice system is being eroded, all those institutions are being eroded. So, I mean, it is no secret, Mikey, that I'm a member of the NTA, the National Transformation Alliance. And transformation is a key word that we have there, but right now we are more than that. We are about building, so we have to actually rebuild our society. We have to rebuild our systems. We have to rebuild our justice regimes. We have to rebuild our institutions. We have to rebuild good governance and democracy in this country. And they have to start somewhere. And you're quite right. The defense force, if the defense force was seen as the last backing post that we could rely on, the judiciary has already been eroded. There is only one choice. We have to rebuild. We have to rebuild. And we have to bring back the governance.
But when you talk about rebuilding, let's be frank here. When you talk about rebuilding, I mean, you're talking about actually going head on with a culture, and that wasn't developed overnight. So one can expect that that's not going to disappear overnight. And so when you go head on with this culture, I mean, how realistic is it to say we can actually get these elements out and we can stream some of our best people to actually ensure that they get the job done. I mean, if you hear it all the time as far as we need to straighten this and we need to straighten out that, but the silhouette of that political hand that's somewhere in the background, either pulling the string or someone wanting something that is indebted to someone else because of some favor or nepotism or what have you. All of that makes up this culture that we are now paying a price for as citizens. Just how difficult and how challenging do you believe going head on with such a situation?
So quite correct. The political interference in the background has led us to where we are right now, and we didn't reach there overnight. And it was systematic, and we can see it. We're seeing it in all our institutions, and we're seeing it in every single aspect of society right now. And Mike, it goes, but we have to change. There is change. Change is coming. We cannot continue with the current administration, because if the current administration is playing their hands and puppeteering everything in the background, we'll continue. So the only way of fixing all of these institutions is actually fixing and making change from the top. And I'm saying no qualms about it. We have to change the politics. We have to go in a different direction.
Yeah, because there has to be some connection as to what are you a part of. I mean, when you talk about the men in blue in New York, they talk about the best that any city has to offer as far as their line of defense and serving, to the people. But when you talk about it here, that's not the same sort of feeling that you get. Again, you feel as though people have simply joined because it's either there or go and be derailed somewhere in society. And so going into these agencies should not be something of a safe haven. I'm going to get that paycheck. I'm going to be employed. And at the end of the day, I'm just going to work hard enough not to be fired and just long enough to remain hired. I mean, that in itself is embedded in the psyche. So again, it's a very deep, deep embedded culture. How do we even begin? If given, let's say tomorrow, the NTA is there, they have to form the government, your political leader says to you, Commander, what do we do? What are some of the low hanging fruits that can be implemented?
So, Mikey, there again, I've been a former member of the Defense Force for 27 years. And once you are serving there, we always serve this seat. Our allegiance was always to this seat. And, we hold ourselves to the highest respect and responsibility for that. We never looked at politics, but somehow, some way, it infiltrated. And operational commanders and commanders at strategic levels were not supposed to be influenced by that. And then somehow, at some point in time, we started to be treated this way in order for personal gain. But the moral and ethical values are still there. And they are the core values of our services. And they're the police service, and it is there in the defense force. What we have to do at the political level is uphold those things. And for instance, I give a simple example, the merit list with the police commissioner. There was interference in that. And when you have interference in those things, the institution is eroded. So the men themselves that are at the top, they feel vulnerable. They feel at risk. And they take the easy way out. But we have good people there that we can still take and put the lead. There are people there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and if you had to look at the ideology, the shared ideology, what would you tell recruits and everyone on the rank and file to let them understand the importance of their job?
Well, there again, the tone is set by the leadership. If you have a weak leader, the juniors and subordinates will see that tone. If you have a leader that is not holding himself accountable to ideals and principles and morals of the country to keep people and move this country forward, they will take the idea and put it on. They will see it. So we have to have good leaders in place. So that's the key thing. Leadership, accountability. We have to have good managers and good leaders in those positions. And if we have bad leaders and we have leaders that don't show that, the tone that they set is what is the juniors will see. So we need to have the good leaders to set that tone first. So we need to fix it from the head.
Yeah, truly, because no one is going to break into at least no one from among the citizens are going to break into the camp to steal the gun. I mean, let's be honest.
Honest. When I was there, Mikey, you could have left $100 on your table, and you were sure if you come back there, you might get 120. Somebody put something extra for you. That was it. That was how it was.
Yeah, but there also has to be support systems that goes hand in hand. I mean, you have officers living in certain areas, geographical locations that are deemed hotspots. They don't have housing. They don't have a way of coming out of whatever environment that they're in. Most of them are not going to wear their uniforms even out in public. So, I mean, all of these things must be taken in consideration, whereas the government has to play a role. How do you house them? How do you keep them safe? Because at the end of it all, they are part of the defense system.
Correct. And these were all filled with empty promises. And I can tell you through my tenure, there are talks that have been carrying on with those same issues, housing, and what they're going to do with people in hotspots. And they've been filled with empty promises. And another slap in the face is the officers being given 4%. I mean, you have 4% after 3 trienniums, and they have been serving. You've been promising them housing, and that is what you're going to do. I mean, you could have come better than that. So the empty promises is shaking the system. So the system is responding to what is being pushing from above. So 4% the people see it bad. So this could be just to say a reaction to those things.
Yeah, and I guess you're right. I mean, and that's why you have to continue evaluating what role and how do people see themselves as part of this entire component. Because it could be like, listen, you don't care about me, and the entire morale of the service can just simply disintegrate. People say, you don't care about me. Why should I care? I am just here to get a paycheck. But in the meantime, if I have to go out there and do some shady sort of deals in order to make ends meet, then I will.
Well, I'm sure you have heard, Mikey, that, even the morale in the defense forces at an all-time low, and in the police service. And it has all been compounded by that 4%. That 4%, it's like a slap in the face to these individuals that have been going above and beyond the call, and without housing and without the other things. So the defense force officers, they work 24/7, and they don't work overtime. And they have been involved in all sorts of other realms of service within Trinidad and Tobago that is not really heard of. The things that they do in the community service, the community pools, the whole remit of things. The CCC program. There's so my lab, my part. There's so many programs that they get involved in, and the manpower is utilized. But there is no remuneration for it, or no thanks. So yes, it pays a toll on these individuals.
Yeah, and I think you've said it honestly there. I mean, we've never heard it like that, because it does. I mean, it really and truly does. People need to be paid properly, especially when they're putting their lives on the line, when so much is expected of them. And the morale would be low if it is that they feel underappreciated and they're not accepted as for the role or how important their role is. Any closing comments? Go ahead.
Well, Maggie, thanks again for the opportunity to speak on the program. And as I said before, the NTA right now transformation, we are about building back the society, and building about governance, and building back democracy for the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
All right. Thank you so much. All the best to you and your team. Best of luck. Thank you so much.